What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Talkin Sports with Jake. Hope we're all doing well. I know I've been doing Sundays last several weeks, but it's going to be back to 5 days a week for the next couple of weeks. I go back to school August 25th, and I'll have to figure things out from there. I'll announce the plan before then, but for the next pretty much two and a half weeks, it'll be Monday through Friday. I know I didn't do the show yesterday, but we'll do Tuesday through Friday this week, and the next week should be Monday through Friday. I ain't trying to let you guys know, but that's the plan for now, which I'm happy about. Doing it once a week. There's pluses and minuses. You have more to talk about. But, I just love doing this, so I like doing it, as many times a week as I can. So the MLB standings, we got just under 2 months ago in the regular season. In the American League, Baltimore best record in the American League. Who would have thought that? They've had a phenomenal year. I'm going to talk about more about them in a little bit. But something that happened. They're 70-42. That is the best record in the American League, and they have the same amount of wins as the Atlanta Braves, but 2 more losses. So they're only like a half game or a game. I don't know how that math exactly would work. Atlanta's win percentage is 636. Baltimore is 625. So within the next couple of days, Baltimore could end up with the best record in baseball. Had a phenomenal year. They're now 20 games over 500. Texas Rangers 67-46. They're in first place in the American League West. They're a couple of games ahead of Houston right now. They're hot. They've won 7 in a row. Minnesota Twins are playing very well. 60-54 now on the air. Obviously, that we think that shouldn't make them first place, but the division is so bad they're in first place. With Cleveland really struggling, they're the slump. Of course, they sold off of a deadline. Minnesota playing very well. They've won 5 in a row. Their division lead is looking pretty secure all of a sudden. In the wild card, Tampa Bay Rays are the first wild card in the American League. They have a 4-game lead for that. They're still somewhat close in the American League East. They're a couple of games behind Baltimore in the American League East. They're their first wild card. Talked about in the past. They started off 30-9 and won 30 of their first 39 games. If my math is correct, that means since then they are 38-37. So a game over 500 since the 39 game mark of a season. And it's now August 8th. So they've been a 500 team for pretty much most of the year, which is crazy considering the Rays have had one of the best records. They still have, I think, the third or fourth best record in baseball. They're actually a half game better than the Texas Rangers right now. And Texas is in first place and Tampa's in second. The Houston Nationals are the second wild card in the American League. They have a half game lead over Toronto for that second spot. Right down in the division as well. I think they're only a couple of games out. You got the Toronto Blue Jays at 64-50. They are the last spot in the American League. They're a half game behind Houston for the second spot right now. And you have teams on the outside looking in. Seattle's been playing really well. They're one of the best teams in the league in July. They continue to play well, and they had a mini sell-off. Didn't sell off too much, but they traded their closer, Pulsio, to Arizona. I did get a very good return for him now. And you traded AJ Pollock and Mark Matthews, who are basically 2 bench players, but still have some value to the team. Sent those 2 guys to San Francisco. They're right now, they've won 8 of 10 in each of their last 5. They swept the Angels. They're 16-52. They're 3 games out. Boston's 5 games out. They've been slumping. They lost a series to Toronto. Yankees continue to struggle. 58-55. They're 5.5 games out of the wild card right now. They're a half game behind Boston for 4th place. Right now, they're a half game. Boston's a half game ahead of them right now. So they're in last place in the American League East. They continue to struggle. They split with the Houston Astros. They're dealing with all sorts of issues. Domingo Ramon's out for the year. He had a little issue. He showed up to the ballpark intoxicated, actually. He got into an argument with manager Aaron Boone. I think he said something about Rob Marinaccio, one of their relievers. They put him in a sauna room, tried to sweat out the alcohol that was in the system, and then eventually they called somebody with MLB, the Player Association, who deals with things like this, and he left the stadium, and he's been placed on the restricted list. He's after the rest of the season with alcohol abuse. He clearly has some issues. He had the domestic violence issue a couple of years ago, and now this alcohol problem. So I'm hoping he gets the help he needs. He can come back stronger, both physically and mentally, hopefully next year, whenever he's ready. So you wanted him for the rest of the year. Did just get back Nestor Cortez, who was phenomenal last year, but has not been very good this year. In ERA, even after going 4 scores in his first start back, of course, if they took it easy with going 4 innings, he hasn't pitched and shoot 30th over a month ago. ERA is still at almost 5. He obviously hasn't pitched in 4.5 weeks. And now Karlsson, who has looked really bad since coming off the IL in July, he's on the IL. He's back on the IL now with a hamstring problem. He's nearly over 7 in his first 6 starts. Didn't get out of 3rd inning in his last start against Houston. So now the Yankees are very short-handed with their starting pitching right now. And they're struggling offensively. 58-55 only. They're now 5.5 games out of the wild card. And they lost 5-1 to the White Sox last night. And the Angels have just fallen apart. They've lost 7 or 8 games out. So keeping Ohtani and buying him the deadline so far has backfired. They have not won a game to trade deadline. They're 0-7. Nationally, Atlanta Braves, 30 games over 500. They're the best team in the league still. Like I said, Baltimore threatening to have the best record in all of baseball, but for now, they still have a pretty solid lead. They're 5.5 games ahead of the Dodgers for the best record in the National League. They also last few. They've lost 3, but still playing phenomenal baseball. Dodgers 65-46. They're a few games ahead of the Giants of National League West. They're in first place, and then they're second best team in the National League. And then you have the Milwaukee Brewers 61-53. They're really, really tight National League Central. They are like a game, maybe 2 ahead of Cincinnati, and the Cubs are right there as well. The Cubs are only a couple of games out of that division. They've been red hot. They're 16-8 since the All-Star break. That's the best record in the National League in that span. Mets beat them 11-2 last night, but the Cubs are still overall played phenomenal baseball over the last probably month or so. In the wild card, San Francisco Giants are the first wild card in the National League, 62-51, 3-game lead for the first wild card. Philadelphia is the second wild card, 61-51. They have a 2.5 game lead for the second spot over Cincinnati, so they are only a half game behind San Francisco for the first spot in the National League, and then Cincinnati's been struggling a little bit, but they are right now 16-55. They're the last team in National League. National League wild cards is much tighter than the American League. American League is basically Baltimore. It was only up a few games on Tampa, but looks like they're probably going to win in that division. Tampa's been the 500 team since the 40-game mark. Texas, Houston's going to be tight, but Minnesota's starting to pull away in the Central. Playoff Tampa, Houston, Toronto will probably be the playoff team. Seattle is still in the mix. Boston's kind of in the mix, but they're struggling. The Yankees isn't looking good for them. The Angels have fallen almost completely out of it. Cleveland's basically out of it, and everyone else is done. National League, though, it's much tighter. Cubs are a game out. The National League Central, second worst team in baseball. In fact, we have 3 playoff teams. That's crazy. Doubt that happened, but still, it's possible. Miami is a game and a half out. They're struggling. They've lost 5 in a row. They've really struggled since the All-Star break. They went into the All-Star break, the first wild card of the National League, and now a game and a half out of the playoff spot. But they're still right there. Arizona has lost 6 in a row, but they're still hanging in there. A game over 500. They're 2 games out. San Diego's played better. 55-58 on the year. 4 games out right now. Yeah, obviously the Mets 7.5 out. Appear to be done. I mean, look at their roster. Their roster isn't good. Mets are only 2 games ahead of Washington right now. Probably doesn't even care. I mean, if they get because if they have a pick outside the top 6, they're going to move down 10 spots because they're over the luxury tax. But if they can get a draft pick, a top 6 pick, they don't move down to 10 spots now because with the new MLB draft law, they would have a chance of a number 1 overall draft pick, which next year I believe is probably going to be Jack Caglione, who's a very similar player to Ohtani, hitter and a pitcher, could be a superstar. But that's the MLB standings right now. The Mets sent down Brett Baty, their third baseman, to AAA. I kind of have mixed feelings about it. On one hand, the Mets are out of it. I would call up pretty much all their prospects. Ones that, of course, at least the ones that are MLB ready. Ren Mauricio is still in the minor leagues. A lot of people have been saying you got to call him up. I wouldn't mind calling him up either. Now you send down Beatty, who has been with the Mets since I think he was called up on April 17th. Has been the everyday third baseman for the most part since that point. But he's been struggling. He was only hitting 216 on the year. Outside of when he first came here, his first 2 weeks, he overall really hasn't played that well. I'm not putting it all on him. He's with how many veterans have underperformed for the Mets, they've left to the rookies like Brett Beatty and Francisco Alvarez to kind of carry below. That's not fair. It's not what they were brought in to be like eased in and kind of like be like in that supporting role and help the team, not help carry the team. It's not what they're there for. It's why we have all these veterans. Mets have all those veterans and they haven't held up their end of the bargain. But he was really strong. He didn't have a hit since August 1st, since the trade deadline. He hadn't had a hit since August 1st. He was in a deep slump. He like I said, he overall hasn't hit great all year for the most part. But he was in the point where there's definitely something wrong. There's something that he's doing wrong that he needs to be fixed. And when when something like that, if you have the ability to shut the guy down, it's not a bad idea. So I don't mind that. And Ronnie Mauricio, who yes, overall has had a great year at AAA, but I read something over his last 45 games, he's only hitting like 225. So he's kind of come down a little bit. I've heard that he's a little bit ticked off that he's not here. I think because they obviously called up Francisco Alvarez in April, and he's gotten significant playing time at the Mets. That he obviously is taking an everyday catch role. He's had a phenomenal rookie year. He's going to be, I think, will be a star. Brett Beatty, to this point, he was called up, I think, on April 17th, around there. And he's, for the most part, been the everyday third baseman. He just got sent back down. But, they called him up when he got to that hot start in AAA. And, they played him a lot until just now. Mark Vientos has gotten a call. Now he's playing pretty much every day now. Which was like, when's my turn coming? I've, been just as good as these guys in the minor leagues. You guys can easily, whether it's putting me at second base and moving McNeil to left field. Tommy Pham is and Mark Conner trade. Starling Marte is back on the IL. He was out like 2 weeks of migraines, came back for like 3 days, and then got hurt again. He has a groin tightness. Yeah, he's been playing hurt all year, if you ask me. That he's never recovered from off-season surgery. That's what it's looked like. He's been so bad this year. No, you could do that. You could stick him in left field. Maybe you DH. At this point, if we have Brett Beatty in minor leagues, you always DH and put Mark Vientos at third base. Yeah, he's not been good defensively in limited time in the field, Vientos, but give him a try, let him learn how to play third. And supposedly when the four of them were Alvarez, Beatty, Vientos, and Mauricio were all in AA, Alvarez, Vientos, and all four of them were playing really well. Alvarez, Beatty, and Vientos got the promotion to AAA. This was probably last year. But Mauricio, they had him stay in AA the rest of the season. And then it took him, he had to go out and play in the Mexican League this year. He had a big year in the big season in the Mexican League before the season, and then a big spring training for him to get the promotion to AAA. So maybe he's a little bit ticked off, like, why you treat me differently than your other top prospects. The other ones, you've promoted, no problem. But me, kind of brought short into the stick. So maybe he's kind of sulking. And what I've heard, he, played every day in AA last year. Each of the last 2 years, to be honest. He played in the Mexican League this past winter. He played a lot in spring training because he had the World Baseball Classic. So a lot of Mets main guys weren't playing in spring training because they were playing the World Baseball Classic. So they missed a good amount of spring training. And he's playing every single day for the most part in AAA this year. Maybe he's just almost out of gas because he's been playing, like a veteran MLB player would be playing as a minor leaguer. Maybe he's getting a little worn out. So I'm not sure if he'll end up coming out. To me, I think they're hoping that Mauricio kind of starts playing a little bit better than he was the first 2 months of the year. First 2 months of the year, he was, otherworldly good in AAA. He is kind of slowed down since then over the last 2+ months. And they're hoping that Mauricio gets hot again, and the AAA Brett Beatty fixes whatever is wrong. And then when they get the extra 2 roster spots on September 1st, they both come up. That's what I'm hoping. And you never know if maybe there's some other projects. Maybe Mike Vassell, if he starts pitching better in AAA, maybe you give him a call up. If someone else, Tyler McGill, you obviously send him back down. So hopefully, Beatty can fix whatever is wrong in AAA. Hopefully, Mauricio can at least get a cup of coffee in September with the Mets. Been a nice little test. If he comes up and he plays well, fantastic. You could pencil him in for 2024 in opening day lineup, where the second left DH, find a spot for him. Comes up, isn't great, all right. But, he went up there, he packed up bats, just, wasn't great. All right. Don't guarantee him a spot, tell him what to work on in the offseason. Make sure he works on it, and then you see what happens in spring training next year. If he looks like a deer in headlights, if he looks almost like completely overpowered, all right, send him back down. He's not ready, and play it by ear in the offseason and spring training as to what you want to do with him. It's really not that hard to me, but we shall see what happens. There's a lot of reports coming out about the White Sox, and none of them very good. There's a former White Sox reliever, Kenny Middleton, who was just traded to the New York Yankees at the trade deadline, came out and said that there were basically no rules within the White Sox organization. Guys were allowed to miss meetings and show up late. Not necessarily allowed, but guys would miss meetings and no one would say anything to them. Guys would show up late to practice and to meetings and no one would say anything. There were no rules, so there was no way for you to have any structure or discipline guys, because you can't discipline a guy when look, when they make it okay to do all these things. And some of the rookies slept in the bullpen during the games. Their GM Rick Hahn denied these allegations, but I'm not sure who you believe. It's one of those things. Okay, there's two people, two sides. There's Kenny Middleton's side, and then there's Rick Hahn, of course, representing the White Sox as a GM, and there's his side. So, who's telling the truth? Someone's telling the truth, and somebody's lying. So, who? Which one? So that's something that came out. And then apparently there was a report that came out that the day before the All-Star break, Yasmani Grandal, the veteran catcher, was not in the opening day lineup. And so he decided to start his All-Star break a day early. He decided he was going to leave the team. Tim Anderson apparently did not take kindly because he said F him. He didn't say F. And then said something along, I'm maybe paraphrasing here, or it may not be exactly his word, but it was something along the lines of, I'll buy his plane ticket for him. And apparently they're going through the report. Grandal went over to Tim Anderson while Tim Anderson, I believe, was in the bathtub and smacked him in the face. Grandal denied it. He said the report is unreal. He denied this, but those are two pretty serious allegations made against the White Sox. Both that they denied. Grandal denied the thing with Anderson, and then you had the thing with Kenny Middleton alleged was going on. Rick Hahn, GM, said that wasn't true, but not good luck for the White Sox organization. Being up to manage, he's had a rough year. He got in a fight with Jose Ramirez. He basically got knocked out. So he's been knocked down just as many times he's hit home runs this year. He has one home run all year. He's hit over 300, I think, every year since 2018. He's a former batting champion. But this year he's fallen off. This year he's hitting 230, has just one home run. He's got a $14 million club option. Heading into the year, you think, oh, that's the bargain. Now almost like you're thinking they might have to decline that. He just is not worth $14 million. If Tim Anderson got suspended 3 games, Jose Ramirez, who actually threw the punch and hit Anderson, got 6 games. I think both managers got a game. Pedro Grifol, the White Sox manager, got a game. And Terry Francona also got a game. And I think the Guardians or White Sox third base coach also got a game because he was involved in it somehow. He got ejected during the game. Only guy that got thrown out that I believe was not suspended. I believe Emmanuel Klaassen, the Guardians reliever, I think came in from the bullpen. He somehow was involved. He got a game. I think he got thrown out of the game at the time, but didn't get suspended. So that was a big fight to happen. The Oakland Athletics, they DFA after Ramon Laureano a few years ago. I think it was like 2019. He had a really big year. Hit like 24 homers. He obviously had, you've seen those throws he's made. He's got cannon of an arm. But for some reason, he has not been able to replicate that. This year, he's hitting just 213, just 280 on base. Just a 364 slugging, just 6 homers, 21 RBI, just a 645 OPS. Hasn't been as great as his arm is as an overall outfielder. Hasn't been that great. Oakland DFA'd him, and he was claimed by the Cleveland Guardians. So we'll see if he can possibly help them as they are free falling in the American League Central standings. And then before I move on to hockey, one more thing with baseball. The Baltimore Orioles did appear suspended announcer Kevin Brown. I'm not sure if you guys saw, but it went viral that on July 30th, the Baltimore Orioles were starting a series with the Tampa Bay Rays. And there was a graphic that popped up on screen. It showed the Orioles' struggles over the last couple of years at Tropicana Field. And Kevin Brown basically read the things on that graphic saying, the Orioles have not won in any of the last 16 series against the Rays. But now they are playing better. Of course, the last few years, Orioles were maybe the worst team in baseball. And now they all of a sudden have, improved a lot, and they have the best record in the American League. That's all he was saying. And he has been off the air since July 30th, so it appears he was suspended. And to me, this is absolutely pathetic. This guy was just doing his job. Although Kevin Brown, an ex-MLB pitcher, he's a really good announcer. Very, very young still. One of the best young announcers in the game, to the point where if the Orioles were to let him go or suspend him, and it's for something so ridiculous that he just says, screw you, I'm done here, 20 other MLB clubs would hire him in a heartbeat and stick him in their booth. Like, this is just, I couldn't believe it. This is pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. It's not his fault that the Orioles were historically bad over the last 4 years. He was literally reading off the graphic. If you didn't want him to read off that graphic, go tell a producer who put that graphic up you shouldn't have put them up and fire his ass. Don't disappoint Kevin Brown for doing his job. He's one of the best young announcers in the game, and you suspend him. And it's a shame because the Orioles are playing so well. Like, I'm not even an Orioles fan, and I can't help but root for them. So many young players, on this team. They've been so bad for several years, and last year turned the corner a little bit, but still weren't great, and didn't make the playoffs. I think we're like maybe just above 500. And all of a sudden this year, didn't make that many offseason moves. He signed Adam Frazier, who's like an average major leaguer. And they signed Kyle Gibson to their rotation. He's a depth starter. And they went from, a mediocre team to the best record in the American League. And they got a chance to compete for a World Series. A team that has not won the World Series since 1983. Do the math. That's what, 40 years ago or something like that? Like, and just to divert the attention from their incredible year that they're having, going from, the laughing stock of the league to being, slight step over last year, but still not being very good, to the best record in the American League, and diverting it for something just so stupid and dumb that the Orioles manager should be absolutely ashamed of themselves. It was an ignorant decision and just so dumb and so stupid. Like, I don't understand it. It makes no sense. That'd be like if a mechanic came to my house, he needed to fix something, he fixed it perfectly, and then he goes back home, and next day he gets a call from his boss, or I don't know how that works. If there's any mechanics watching the show, help me out. Say, oh, you're fired. The guy's house that you fixed, the color you painted it, my kid doesn't like that color, so you're fired. Like, it's so pathetically dumb and stupid. So ignorant decision by the Orioles. But I shout out to Gary Cohn, the best play manager, for speaking out during the game and crapping on the Orioles just like I did. Awful, absolutely awful. I hope the Orioles are ashamed of themselves. Horrible decision. On to hockey. A big trade happened. The Pittsburgh Penguins they made a big trip to San Jose Sharks, also involved the Montreal Canadiens. Erik Karlsson, the Reign Norris Trophy winner. He was the first defenseman since Brian Leamington 1992 to have 100 points in the season. He was traded to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Remember I said the last time they were trying to get the deal done, and they did. He was traded to the Penguins. Penguins got Karlsson. They also get Rem Pitlick from Montreal. They get a prospect from the Sharks named Dylan Hamiluk. In exchange, they send out Mikkel Granlund. They send out Jan Rutta. They send out Jeff Petrie and Casey DeSmith. And they also send a top 10 protected first round pick in 2024. Granlund went to the Sharks. Jan Rutta went to the Sharks. The pick went to the Sharks. Jeff Petrie went to Montreal, where he played the previous 8 seasons before going to the Penguins last year. Casey DeSmith, the Penguins' backup goalie last year. He goes to the Canadiens. Nathan Laguerre was a prospect. He goes to the Canadiens, and they also get a 2025 second round picks. The Sharks are going to pay Erik Karlsson $1.5 million a year. He's got 4 years left on his deal at $11.5 million a year, so they'll pay him $6 million total over the next 4 years. So the Penguins will be are on the hook for 4 years, and I think about $46 million. So if you do the math, that comes to I'm not sure if that number is right, but I think they're going to actually pay him like $10 million. So 4 years, about $40 million. I think the Penguins owe him $10 million over the next 4 years. He had 25 goals, 76 assists, 101 points as a defenseman last year. Incredible year. The Sharks, and then Montreal side, they send Mike Hoffman to San Jose. And they send him to San Jose, and they send Rem Pitlick to Pittsburgh as well. So Pittsburgh basically traded Mikkel Granlund, Jan Rutta, Jeff Petrie, and Casey Smith, and a prospect, and a top 10 protected 24 first. I think the 25 second was from them as well. For Erik Karlsson, Rem Pitlick, Dylan Hamilton, who's a prospect they get from San Jose, and a 2026 third round pick they get from San Jose. San Jose trades Karlsson. They trade a prospect in Hamiluk. Then they trade a 2026 third round pick. In exchange, they get Mikkel Granlund, Mike Hoffman, Jan Rutta, and a top 10 protected first round pick in 2024. Montreal trades Jeff Petrie, they got Petrie back. They trade Mike Hoffman. I think they trade a late round pick. In exchange, they get Jeff Petrie, Casey DeSmith, a prospect, and a 2025 second round pick. So Penguins, the ones who have the Penguins is they're trying to get younger. They got a really old core. Crosby, Malkin, Letang are all in their late 30s, and Karlsson's 33. He signs until he's 37. But to give up so little, you get to basically move for a veteran, which if anything is a good thing for the best defenseman in hockey. Plus, you get a depth piece in Rem Pitlick. You get a prospect and an extra draft pick. Is really good. Montreal brings back Petrie, a veteran D-man. Penguins are paying 25% of his contract. So he's got 2 years and $12.5 million left. So do the math on that. Subtract 25% of that. That's what Montreal is going to be paying him. Casey Smith, who was not very good last year. He had last year as the backup goalie for Pittsburgh. He was 15, 16, and 4, 317 GAA, 905 save percentage in 38 games, including 33 starts. He's making $1.8 million this year, then he'll be a free agent. It gives Montreal some depth in goal, with the Carey Price situation happening, that kind of put him in a flux in goal, and Jay Gallen battling injuries last year, so it gives them something in that at least. And they get to move Mike Hoffman's contract. When he first came up, was really good in Ottawa. Hasn't fared as well in Montreal. Last year, Hoffman only played 67 games. He had 14 goals, 20 assists, 34 points. He'll make $4.5 million this year. Penguins could make a huge move for Karlsson. Montreal, I thought, pretty well. You pick up a veteran D-man Petrie, who you're very familiar with prior to last year. He played like 7 or 8 years in Montreal. You get some depth in goal, Casey Smith. Not making a lot. You get Nathan Laguerre, a forward prospect. Last year had 8 goals and 19 points in the AHL. If you pick up a second round pick in a couple of years, you get to move Mike Hoffman's contract. But to me, the Sharks' return is pathetic. So Karlsson, the best defenseman in hockey, you're paying him $1.5 million a year to play for another team. You also you also give up a prospect. You don't have him not super high talent guy, but a prospect of a 3rd round draft pick in a few years, and you get back Mikkel Granlund, who's a pretty decent player, but older. And last year 10 goals, 31 assists, 41 points. He's making $5 million a year for the next 2 years. Mike Hoffman last year had 14 goals, 34 points. He'll make $4.5 million here. You get Jan Rutta, who's a veteran defenseman. He had 3 goals and 9 points in 56 games with Pittsburgh last year, basically a 6th defenseman, and then 1 first-round pick. The Penguins don't have a bottom 10 team, but after they improved their team after just missing the playoffs last year, I very, very shocked if that pick if they end up with a bottom 10 record. So that 1 first-round pick, 1 draft pick, and 3 veteran players who won't be on the team in a year or two. Granlund will be traded probably this year or next year. He's a 3rd-line player at this point in his career. Mike Hoffman, I doubt he probably won't make it past the trade deadline. I doubt Jane Rutta makes it past, but Jane Rutta probably won't make it past the trade deadline. Actually, I don't know his contract, but so he's not. Even if it's a guy you keep for a couple of years, he'll be on the 3rd defense pair. Not a good return from a Shark, and this is why they've been irrelevant for many, many years. And the Arizona Coyotes make a move. They sent Matt Dumba, a veteran defenseman, 1 year, $4 million. He's spent his entire 10-year career in Minnesota. He's now going to be in Arizona. Last year, 4 goals, 10 assists, 14 points, 79 games. A little older, but he gives Arizona some help on the back end. The Los Angeles Clippers now moving to the NBA. They are going to restart trade talk for James Harden. The Sixers want a big return for him. In the past, Harden's not the same player. He's not good in the playoffs where he never has been. I think if he can be like if he can settle and be like an off the ball guy, maybe a 3rd option, give you 18 points, 8 assists, I think he can help a team. But if he says I still want to be the at least a 2nd option and be able to give you 22 points and 10 assists every night, then to me, you're not winning a championship with Harden. So it's not worth giving up a whole lot for him. So Pac-12 continues to just be torn apart. The ACC is considering adding Stanford and Cal. ACC, they all met, I think, a day or 2 ago. They talked about it but didn't vote. So they're still on the fence. So we'll see what happens. At this point, just delete the Pac-12. They're absolutely just pathetic. They have 4 teams left. Starting next year. 4. We'll be the Pac-12, not the Pac-4. You got in the NFL, we got some signings for some veterans. Justin Houston goes to Carolina on a 1-year deal. Houston's still a very good player. 9.5 sacks. I mean, he's really underrated. He's more defensive player of the year. All those great years with the Chiefs, and he was with the Ravens for a short time. He spent a few years with the Colts. Had 9.5 sacks last year. He's still a very good player. Carolina adds a pretty good edge rusher. Only a few weeks before the season. Miles Jack and Zach Cunningham, 2 veteran linebackers, go to the Eagles 1 year, 2.5. Both have had really good years in the past. Last year, Miles Jack he had 104 tackles last year. And he was with Jacksonville for a while. Last year was somewhere else. And Zach Cunningham, who a couple of years ago led the league in tackles, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. It was 2. Had 164 tackles like 2 years ago with Houston. Last year was in Tennessee, only played 6 games. But 2 years ago, he led the league in tackles. He goes to the Philadelphia Eagles. 1 year, $2.5 million. The Saints picked up 2 veterans. They picked up Kareem Hunt, who they brought in for a visit a couple of days ago, and now they officially signed him. Veteran back signed a 1-year deal with the Saints last year with Cleveland. 460 rush yards and 3 scores. 3.8 yards per carry, but had 35 catches for 210 yards in the score. A little older, but still a decent pass catching back. He was saying to need the back with Alvin Kamara suspended the first 3 games, even with Jamal Williams there. Benjamin's a def piece. He's out for the torn ACL, so outside of the first 3 games, all you have is Jamal Williams, who was a great signing. He loved the league in rush touchdowns last year. Then you have this one young guy, I think he just drafted late. Yeah, there's one other guy. So they need some depth, and they pick up Kareem Hunt. If Kamara, Jamal Williams, Kareem Hunt there, that'll be a good running back core starting week 4 when Kamara comes off his suspension. Also, a veteran linebacker Anthony Barr, long-time Viking, was in Dallas last year in 14 games, had 58 tackles, 2 fumble recoveries, a pass defense, and a sack. So a little older, but still an okay linebacker. Yeah, John Johnson goes to the Rams. Team that originally drafted him. He had some good years there. Last year in Cleveland, 101 tackles, a pick, 4 pass defenses, 2 fumble recoveries, and 2 forced fumbles. So he's not quite the player he wants, but still a solid starting safety. He goes back to the Rams. The Rams have a lot of young players start, especially in that secondary, and then they bring in a veteran, which is a nice move. Lions signed Teddy Bridgewater, so he'll probably back up Jared Goff. And you have Hendon Hooker there, who you draft from the 3rd round as well. Jake Ferguson is expected to be the Dallas's starting tight end. Of course, you lose Dalton Schultz and free agency. You signed to Houston. So he played a little bit last year. Ferguson was your backup last year. Had 19 catches, 174 yards, and 2 scores. Didn't do much. That one game might have been Thanksgiving. Had 3 touchdowns. He flashed a little bit down the stretch. He'll probably start for them. And then you have Luke Schumacher just drafted. He's just coming off the non-football injury list. He's just getting it back, so he got a late start to the training camp. He's just being activated now, and preseason already started. So Jake Ferguson will probably start for them. And Titus Howard, the Texans right tackle, just broke his hand. He had surgery. Head coach Mega Ryan said he'll be out a while, so he might miss the start of the year. He's got a big 3-year extension, so hopefully he gets healthy soon. So the Texans say they got to protect CJ Stroud, the rookie quarterback, 2nd overall pick. In golf, Lucas Glover, of his 5th career PGA win, he wins the Wyndham Championship at 20 under par. And Russell Henley beats him by 2 strokes. The next tournament is the FedEx Jew Championship, which starts this Thursday. By the way, Justin Thomas, he finished the FedEx Cup 71st, 1 spot off the playoffs, so he misses the playoff. And he actually had some nice comments about it. He said, very disappointed. He says, I'm gutted, but we talked about nothing wrong for a little bit of adversity. So hopefully he bounces back next year. SummerSlam was this weekend. I'm gonna close out. We got some wrestling, and then I have one small announcement, and then we're gonna wrap this thing up. SummerSlam was on Saturday. To recap that, you started off with Logan Paul versus Ricochet. Logan Paul wins the match. There was some random guy who, according to Michael Colby, saw him hang out with Logan before the show. Gave behind the referee's back, he gave him brass knuckles and he punched Ricochet in the face with them, knocking him out, and stuffed the brass knuckle in his shorts and then pinned him. It was a great match. Ricochet is one of my favorites. He is so fun to watch, extremely athletic. He might be the best athlete they have on the roster. Obviously, Brock Lesnar is maybe the best athlete we've ever seen, but for full-time guys, Ricochet is probably the best athlete they have. Really underrated to me. And Logan Paul, say what you want about him, he's a great wrestler. He has every single match he's done has, at least me personally, left me going, wow, that was a great match, and he put on a show. He puts on a show every time he goes out there. Incredible athlete. And he wins the match. Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar. Cody Rhodes wins the match. I thought it was a good match. You start off, Brock was just throwing him all over the place. Then Cody was able to, get an opening, and he ends up winning the match. It was a solid match. It wasn't anything special. Wasn't the match of the year candidate. It was a decent match. I think it was a good ending to their trilogy. And kudos to Brock Lesnar for showing sportsmanship after the match, shaking his hand and raising his hand in front of everybody. That was actually not planned, by the way. So if Cody Rhodes looked shocked because that wasn't planned. So really, really cool by Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar put so many guys over. From Roman Reigns to Seth Rollins to Cody Rhodes. He's basically at this point in his career, he shows up, he puts someone over, and then leaves for a few months, goes and relaxes, and then comes back, does it again. This point in his career is where he's a part-timer, so he's just trying to get back as much as possible. So kudos to him. Brock's one of the all-time greats, and Cody Rhodes is also such a great performer. this run that he's had since he came back at WrestleMania last year has been phenomenal. Been back about a year and a half or so now, and that was a good match. The SummerSlam Battle Royale was between 20 other men. You know, obviously the surprise contestant was Omos, but you know, you need the like 8 other dudes to eliminate him, you know, towards the end of the match. But LA Knight, yeah, he wins the Battle Royal, eliminating Sheamus to win. So I was very happy for LA Knight. Gotta love LA Knight. You had Ronda Rousey versus Shayna Baszler in an MMA rules match. Shayna Baszler made Ronda Rousey tap out, and it appears she is done with WWE, and thank goodness. She's one of the greatest MMA UFC fighters of all time, mostly the second greatest women's UFC MMA fighter of all time, besides Amanda Nunes. And she's probably a top 10 overall. She was great in UFC MMA, but as a wrestler, not very good. You know, she's always super angry, and for a while she was a face, so it made no sense. To me, she's not that good of a wrestler. She's not that good of a wrestler. You know, she never really put on that good of a show. There's no match that I watched from her being like, wow, that was a really good match she put on a show. Not that, man, that she's gone. You know, the match wasn't that great, to be honest. It was meh. But Ronda's appears to be out of WWE. Intercontinental Championship, Gunther versus Drew McIntyre. Gunther picks up the win. He retains. Really good match. You know, we had 2 big bruises between Gunther and Drew McIntyre. Now, Gunther is on an historic Intercontinental Championship reign. He's an absolute stud. I love Gunther. He's got a chance to do something really special in WWE. He's on this great run. He was the guy. Remember, he was Walter. He was in NXT UK. When he first came to WWE, he was overweight. They told him he gotta lose a little bit of weight. He did, and look what happened. He's now in phenomenal shape, and he's one of the best guys they got. He's definitely one of the best 4 or 5 wrestlers on the roster. Not even close. Absolute stud. What a match that was. The World Heavyweight Championship. Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor. Seth Rollins retained. This match was phenomenal. Absolutely loved it. So many near falls. Both guys, you know, had to hit their finishing moves. Both guys kept each other's finishing moves. Of course, the Judgment Day came down. It was Priest, Dominic, and Rhea. Was the referee distracted? You know, Priest tried. He was offering the briefcase to Finn Balor for him to use behind the referee's back and try to win the match. Balor got pissed at him, and he basically shoved it back in his face. And then a little bit, a few minutes later, like he put it like just inside the ring, trying again to have Finn Balor use it. Finn Balor looking confused, like, well, dude, what are you doing? And then with the referee distracted, Rollins curb stomped Finn Balor onto the Money in the Bank briefcase and escaped with the World Heavyweight title. So more drama in the Judgment Day. Phenomenal match. Seth Rollins retained, and a lot of people said, "Oh, you should have Finn win." I wouldn't have minded Finn winning, but I don't mind Seth Rollins winning either. You know, it continues to push the storyline with the Judgment Day. And to me, this Judgment Day storyline has been phenomenal. I love the Judgment Day. The Women's Championship triple between Asuka, Bianca Belair, and Charlotte Flair. Bianca Belair wins back the Women's Championship. This match was really good. Great sell job by Bianca, faking, you know, with that injury. I won't say faking the injury, but, you know, with that injury. You know, doing, you know, her knee was still, you know, not 100%. And she still up and do that match. It was great. Really good match. And Bianca is now the women's champ again. But then, all of a sudden, you hear someone's music. Io Sky comes in, and she cashes in her Money in the Bank. You know, Bailey hit Charlotte and Asuka over the head with the briefcase. Asuka cashes in. No, Io Sky cashes in, hits a finishing move on Bianca Belair, and pins her and wins the Women's Championship. It was an incredible cash in. I did not expect it. That was crazy. And for the WWE Undisputed Universal Championship, in a tribal combat match, the winner will be the tribal chief Roman Reigns against Jey Uso. Roman Reigns retains. Another just absolutely fantastic match. Back and forth. Both guys had near falls. And Jay looked like he was about, you know, it went into the stand. You know, it's Sol Sikoa involved. You know, Roman spear Sol Sikoa on accident. And then, you know, Solo got really looked pissed off. But then he remembered he's got to be true to Roman. And, you know, then Jay was about to win a match, and then some guy in a hoodie pulls Jay out of the ring. It's Jimmy Uso turns on Jay, then super kicks him, throws him back in the ring, and then Roman pins him. Incredible match, incredible end to SummerSlam. I know some people were saying that the SummerSlam wasn't great. I thought it was phenomenal. That was a really good show. I think it was the most successful. Someone said it was like the most successful when it comes to like viewership SummerSlam ever. I know it was a phenomenal pay-per-view and was very, very successful. Only match I didn't like really was Rollins and Baszler, and that match was never going to be. As reason was like, in the middle of the card towards the beginning. It was one of those matches like, all right, It's one of those matches, if you're there live, it's like you go to your buddy, hey, you want to get a beer, want to get a snack. Now, if you're watching it on your friend's couch, it's like, like, hey, you want to run to McDonald's? I'm getting kind of hungry here. But other than that, the Brock and Cody match wasn't fantastic, but it was solid. That match, there was no reason to have the match be a low match, and every match I thought was really, really good. Also, recap Raw from last night. So we started out. Cody Rhodes tonight. He was talking about Brock Lesnar, how he beat him, and like he was so surprised that Brock showed the sportsmanship. But then Seth Rollins comes out, and they start talking, and then the Judgment Day comes out, sans Finn Balor, and all of a sudden Finn comes out and starts attacking Seth Rollins, and then Dom and Priest were attacking Cody Rhodes. Then Sami Zayn comes out and he evens the odds. So that was really cool. And it's supposed to be a 6-man tag match. He had a fatal four between Ricochet, Chad Gable, Matt Riddle, and Tommaso Ciampa in a number 1 contenders match for the Intercontinental Championship. And Chad Gable won, so he will be facing Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship at some point in the future. That was a good match. He had Shinsuke Nakamura against Bronson Reed. That was actually a very good match. Nakamura with Bronson Reed. Nakamura picked up the win. Very good match over big Bronson Reed. It's Shayna Baszler versus Zoe Stark. Well, first, Becky Lynch came out to the ring. She's talking about how she's going to fight Trish. And Zoe Stark comes out saying, I already beat you. They've first Zoe beat her, then Becky beat her to get another shot against Trish. He's like, Trish has already beat you. But then Shayna Baszler comes out and talking about how I ran her out of the WWE. Then her and Zoe Stark were getting in each other's faces, and Becky's like, why don't you two fight? And Pierce makes it official. Pierce comes out, says that's a good idea. Let's get a referee. This match is official. And Shayna Baszler picks up the win, and then backstage when Becky was doing the interview, Shayna said, you're on my list. Becky said, looking forward to it. So maybe those two will fight down the line. Owens versus Ludwig Kaiser after backstage. Ludwig Kaiser was like sort of hitting on what's her name? Maxine Dupree for trying to get her to come to Imperium. And then Otis showed up. Shows him to the match, and Ludwig Kaiser picked up the win. The match was pretty good. It's just when the start of something big like that could Maxine Dupree be joining Imperium, it's gonna start slow. Attack versus the New Day making their return against the Viking Raiders. The New Day picked up the win. Then backstage, you had a backstage reporter in her first day on the job interviewed the New Day, and they all did a little dance. The match was okay. You had the Judgment Day in a 6-man tag match was supposed to be between Sami Zayn, supposed to be between Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes, and Sami Zayn, but then at one point backstage, Finn was talking with JD McDonough as he's been the last couple of weeks. Priest comes out to him like, "Yo, like we gotta talk something private." He's like, "Whatever you gotta say, you can say in front of JD. He's been my friend for 20 years." He's like, "All right, fine." Then he's saying, what happened last night. And then, I was just trying to help you. He's saying, you attacked Seth Rollins without telling us. That wasn't cool. You were not coming out with us. Then Rhea Ripley tried breaking up to the guys. You stop them like children. You can't be doing this. And they're like, all right, fine. All right, fine. Then JD McDonough actually said, hey guys, I know I might be out of line, but that briefcase is kind of put a wedge between you guys. Maybe you should get rid of it. And then walked away. And then he ended up taking out Sami Zayn. His elbow looked like there was a baseball in it. And then they come out of a training room. They said, "Oh, Stephon, Cody Rhodes just like storms off." And then Seth Rollins like, all right, it's gonna be 2-on-3. But Shinsuke Nakamura shows up, like, if you want, I can replace his. Rollins like, you know what? I like you, fine. And a 6-man tag between Seth Rollins, Nakamura, and it was Rollins, Cody Rhodes, and Nakamura against Judgment Day, of course, Priest, Finn Balor, and Dominic, and Sami Zayn came out and kind of helped them a little bit. Rollins, Nakamura, Cody Rhodes pick up the win. At first, Rollins didn't want to shake Cody's hand. Eventually did a quick one, showed a little bit of respect, even though obviously he doesn't like him. But after the match, Nakamura hit a Kinshasa on Seth Rollins. And that's how they closed the show. Overall, that was a really, really good Raw. And I'm excited for SmackDown and Raw next week. All right, that's all I got for you guys today. Until next time, so long. Have a great day.